is John. Next is doing a quick deck tech. Obviously, as you'll see from the record, we are in the middle of the league. But as a friendly reminder, if you do like modern content, especially of the red-based variety, please consider subscribing to the channel, giving us a thumbs up, and leaving a constructive comment down below. So we're doing a quick deck tech here. This is a variant of Boros Burn that we used in the prelim last week. Made some adjustments to the sideboard, mainly upping the number of Sanctifier and Vex and Rolling Vortexes. We wanted to be a little bit better prepared for some of the decks I expected to see in the prelim event, you know, the 4-color control, hammer time, all that nonsense. And I hadn't been quite as impressed with Deflecting Palm of late. It's just a card that hasn't seemingly been doing a lot for me lately in a lot of the matches I've been personally running into. I know other people have had success with the card, so that's why I cut it for the bigger event. But beyond that, you know, I prefer to play the 20-land Goblin Guide Swiss Spear version. You know, I know Aspiring Spike has been pushing the Dragon Regis Channeler Bobble version, and he certainly had a very good run with the deck. That deck feels like it's a little bit more polarizing version of Burn. Tends to struggle against decks with a bunch of creature removal. If Dragon Regis Channeler lives, obviously you get to filter your draws, and it feels a lot better. But in the experience I've had with the card, it tends to struggle with staying alive, so I think his league was a little bit atypical in Dragon Regis Channeler actually living long enough to have an impact, you know, whereas Goblin Guide and Swiss Spear, maybe they're not as powerful over a prolonged period of time, but they do have the ability, obviously, of, you know, having haste and they can just get in for chip shots, you know, before your opponent can get a removal spell out, or, you know, your opponent's all out attacked, they're tapped out for some reason, you have an opportunity to get in. Eidolon obviously has the ability of generally trading for a spell, getting a couple points of damage from its trigger effect, you know, overall very powerful. Rest of the deck, you know, nothing too fancy with Burn. I do prefer to play 5 of the Canopy lands, that way when I'm playing 20 lands and I'm starting to fly out a little bit, I have a little bit of options. I do prefer 20 lands because oftentimes, as a Burn player, you struggle more with drawing your second land than you do struggling with drawing beyond your fourth. So I prefer to have a little bit more in that range. As far as the sideboard, you know, Luris, don't leave home without it. There's very few reasons to not play Luris in your Burn deck. I might come up with a variant as to one reason why you may not consider Luris, but that's very debatable, and it's kind of a very corner case scenario that I'll get into maybe in another video when I'm feeling a little bit more exploratory with the Burn archetype. As far as the sideboard, you have some Wear Tears and Smash to Smithereens for hammer time and any type of artifact-based stuff. Obviously, Urza Saga is part of the format. 4 copies of Roiling Vortex. This is obviously kind of a hate card against the Cascade decks and stuff, but pretty good in a lot of spots, pretty decent against a lot of the controlling decks. Sure, they have answers, Prismatic ending Teferi, but also gives you the more anti-life gain stuff besides the Skullcracks in your main deck. Sanctifier and Vex is kind of your hybrid card between what used to be Core Firewalker and Rest in Peace. Now, it's not as good as either card overall. You know, Rest in Peace much better against hard graveyard decks. Core Firewalker better in the red mirrors, whereas Sanctifier and Vex pretty good against a lot of the graveyard decks you expect to see other than maybe the blue-based Living Index. You know, it's pretty decent against any type of Ragavan Darcy decks. So, has a lot of utility in the current format. Does see play against some of the other graveyard-based decks, you know, things like Dredge and such is pretty decent against. And then finally, a couple copies of Path to Exile here to give you a little bit of utility against bigger creatures, ability to get through Murktides, Death Shadows. Let's get into matches and see how we do. Alright, we're here for match number 1. Draw, looks like. Hands, oof. Fail. I mean, this hand's very, very painful. I think we keep this one. See what our opponent does here. Turn 1 Spire. Also likely up against Murktide. Goblin God attacks. And reveal. Fiery Islet. Wow, actually connected. Consider your options. Consider them well. Opponent polluted Delta and passes. Not sure what the go in the second main phase was, but alright, sure. Installed up counterspell, yes. That would be my guess anyway. Goblin God attacks. Reveals Expressive Iteration. Opponent does nothing on end step. Still does nothing. I have no reason to act friend. Opponent gets another Spire Bluff Canal. Now they wish to take. Sure. Alright, so while they're tapped out, we're going to go ahead and do the thing to skewer the critics. Put our opponent to 8, and let's see what they get. Alright, they going to attack? No, they are not. Alrighty then. Well, I mean, not exactly the best line of play, but if our opponent taps low here, we just get to kill them. I think our opponent might be considering playing a Murktide, because it said paying costs, and that generally means, well, it's already played Island, which I don't entirely agree with, but, you know, whatevs. Sure, the odds our opponent has 3 counter spells going on over there. There's this. Vultureface. Can they afford to let an idol? Alright, that draws out a counter spell. If you have Spell Pierce, you get us a little bit here. It's kind of whatever. I'm not playing around Spell Pierce, though. Got there in game 1 against Murktide. Alright, so Sanctifiers can come in this matchup. It's not the best card, but it's pretty reasonable. Path is okay. Eidolon can be a little hit or miss, especially on the draw. Searing Blaze can be a little bit hit or miss. Obviously they have Ragavan and Murktide, or Ragavan and Darcy, but a lot of our other spells just don't interact positively with what they're doing. Could get rid of Skewer, could get rid of Riftbolt, could get rid of Boros Charm. Number of cards you can consider. I think I'm going to do the Coward split a little bit and do a couple Searing Blazes and a couple Skull Cracks because they generally don't have a lot of they generally don't have a lot of life gain going on in their decks. Now they certainly can, but yeah, I think I'm keeping a hand that's double protection from your deck and turn 1 Riftbolt. So question is, do I play around Counterspell or do I just start jam? They really they really kept a 1-lander? I'm utterly shocked. Alright, well, let's go with protection from your exile cards in our graveyard too, which is a little less relevant, but still. Opponent must have kept a hand of, removal. That wasn't the most interesting of matches, but, does in some ways show the power of Sanctifier and Beck, but also shows the power of our opponent just kind of keeping a 1-lander and dying. So, on to the next match. Alright, back for match number 2. We are on the play. Yes, I would like Companion. My opponent does not Companion. 4-lander. So we kind of discussed in our Mulligan video. If you'd like to check that out, a link will be down below. Definitely can't keep 4-landers in burn, so this hand's much more palatable. As far as we're putting back, probably the Sacred Foundry. Could argue about putting back one of the fetch lands themselves. I do think we're going to keep this. Put back a fetch land, actually. Do this, play Swizzle Spear, go to town here. Not quite sure what we're up against, obviously. Blaze might be a completely dead card, and Blaze is one of those high risk, high reward kind of cards situations, so that was actually a pretty good draw. Basic Mountain there will allow us to keep the option of Searing Blaze. So I'm not quite sure what our opponent's on. Jam Eidolon here. There aren't too many things they could have that I would care about. This could be Control, looking more like Merfolk. Double Island, sure. Merfolk with an absolutely terrible start. Downside for them is, yeah, they turn our thing into an island, but then we just kind of get to annihilate them with this Searing Blaze that we're going to be playing. So, the thing, they have Force Negation, perhaps. Spend a Riftbolt and attack for 4. Put them to 9, and this game feels like it's ours. Okay, I guess they could have, yeah, they have another Tide Shaper. Opponent controls, not sure. And then your Tide Shaper here, even if you Force Negation this, you're still in a world of hurt, and you agree. So, moving on to Sideboarding against... Problem is we don't have a bunch for them. I'm going to bring in Wear Tears, question mark. So one piece of tech that I am worried about is the presence of Chalice of the Void, which isn't historically played a lot in Fish or Folk, but sometimes sees play. And then also, actually no, I'm going to talk myself. Yeah, Wear Tear. Wear Tear isn't great, but at least it would play around Spreading Seas, but I think I'm going to bring in Smash, because if they have Chalice, they have both Ether Vial and Chalice then, so it would be worth it as an impact card. This hand's a little bit awkward as far as the spells because of the nature of Riftbolt and Skewer the Critics, but I do think we keep this hand. We're on the draw, 3-lander, 1 Island, go. Okay. I think we want to expose our white source quite yet. Some chance we get Spreading Seas, or they have their Tide Shaper in hand. It's kind of odd that they haven't had, alright, I think I just play the fetch land. Go attack with Swizzle Spear. If they have, they just do nothing. So, don't like taking the extra damage here, but I think how they're likely to attack our mana, we just kind of do the thing. They might be holding up Counterspell here. They still could have Trickster, but it looks like not. I think they would have played during combat, quite frankly. The downside for Merfolk is the odd... Yeah, they have Counterspell here going on, which makes sense. Alright, so we'll go after Tide Shaper, see what they do about a Counterspell. I don't know what they're holding on to the Counterspell for then. Yeah, there's not any, one particular spell here that's gonna get you, so I don't know what they're planning on playing around exactly. Still could be Trickster, I suppose. So we're gonna go ahead and do this. Figure out what they want to do. Opponent can hold up his mana all day. I don't understand why they didn't cast Counterspell. The problem with playing against Burn is just, the Burn player can effectively play around counterspells, especially if you're, whatchamacallit's, really slow. Obviously, they can't Force of Negation during their own turn, so I think we go for the win here. They have Force of Negation, they have Force. I'm not playing around it. Look like they do. Alright, well, I wish every burn match was this easy. I think the last time I had this quick of a start, we had a little bit of a rough back end of the league, but we'll see what we can do. See you for the next match. Alright, we are back for match number 3. It's time to top deck play, which is nice. Pretty good. The one concern with this hand is, Goblin Guide, triple, Boros Charm, Lava Spike, is just the fact that we might get clunked up on Boros Charms, but I suppose there are worse spells to have a plethora of. So, once again, no companion from our opponents. This is, Bizarro Land MTG, Raven's Crime, Spaghettios. Opponent goes with Inquisition of the Kozilek. Alright, so we're up against Pox, which is, or a variant of Pox, which is traditionally a difficult one. It gets rid of a Boros Charm. Shocking. And our opponent reveals Smallpox. They kept a 1 land. Snaring Bridge, sure. And our opponent concedes. Well, normally the matchup's not this easy, but, so we will look to see these small Pox decks are running, if there even is any. I suspect they're an Urza Saga deck now, would be my guess. They're an Urza Saga deck. I don't know that this is a deck that traditionally does well in Modern, so I may not see. Alright, there's a black-white version running around. Actually kind of like this Timeless Dragon version. Pretty sweet. But we don't know. Them showing us in Snaring Bridge, though, leads me to believe they're more on the artifact-based version. So we're going to bring in these guys and these guys. Probably the Roiling Vortexes, and then go down. Could even potentially bring in Sanctifiers, although they do obviously have Edict effects. Searing Blaze is pretty middling against them. Skullcrack could potentially be okay. What cards are we not? That's kind of crazy that we have 12 potential cards we might be interested in bringing in here. It's not usually the case. Sanctifier does have the nice effect of exiling their whatchamacallits. I think I might get rid of some Skewer the Critics, as they can be awkward to cast sometimes. And then the question becomes, what other cards I get rid of here? Way too many. I think I might actually draw, because they do frequently get to situations where they're actually ahead of us on life totals because of how their deck's set up. Now, once again, they could be a Saga deck, they could be, there's a lot of things about them we just don't know. I generally don't like to keep one-landers in this spot, but I think it's the all-discard spell deck that we're going to go ahead and keep. Inquisitions. Probably take Swift Spear or Royal X would be my guess. Could take the anti-artifact stuff. The reality is either take Swift Spear or one of the permanent-based spells, I think. I really think it's between Swift Spear and Vortex, and our opponent takes Wear Tear. Okay, that tells me they're probably planning on bridging us or something along those lines. So, I think I'm going to lead on Goblin Guide. Yes, it's not known information, but damage is damage. Okay, so they might be the black-white version. Hopefully we don't get poxed here. If we do, we're going to be in a lot of trouble. Sure. What am I pitching here? Probably Skullcrack, or, well, I guess Lightning Healer. Really do need to draw a land, though. Problem with Raven's Crime is they have access to Silent Clearing, so we know they can Raven's Crime us at least once if they want to. Looks like they want to play a spell. For those two. And this is why I say this is just the nature of the beast. It could be waiting though. We got rid of this Smash to Smithereens to play whatever artifact they have. This is definitely a matchup where you have to play off the top of the deck a lot. If you draw hot, you just Saga is on bit unfortunate. Quite likely to lose from here. But I could let attack Liliana, but it's kind of what's the point. Opponent could also have something like Shadow Spear, which if they do, we just lose on the spot. It's got a bunch of big boys. Okay, so we're done. This is why I say this matchup is not good. Just the sheer number of stupidity. I don't really think we want Sanctifier. It's sure, it's okay, but they do have a number of Edict effects in their deck. Bring these back in. We don't really want Blaze. We don't really want Skewer. I'm fine with Smash and Wear Tear because it has utility in the matchup. Sanctifier is a card they struggle to kill, but they still have Smallpox, they still have Liliana in their deck, they still have Construct tokens to blank them. Once again, a one-lander I think we're going to risk keeping because it has a very high upside to the one-landers. Let me know down in the comments if you would keep this particular hand, but I do think this is a hand you could get away with keeping. So, One of these two games we're going to get smallpoxed out of the game, and that's going to be it. Opponent gets a Liliana. Gets to Fatal Push the Goblin Guide, I presume. What am I pitching? Wear Terror for now. Inquisition of Kozilek, sure. They have Life Gain in their deck? Opponent's either light on lands, or they only had, or their next land isn't a, Urza Saga. I presume you just play Liliana, Edict something here. Question is, do I waste the damage on Liliana? I don't think so. I think we're in a desperation enough time that we just kind of really would love to draw land here. Probably pitching Eidolon, because I think their path to victory includes the Saga tokens, so Eidolon's probably past its expiration date here. Victory? Okay. Don't know that I agree with our opponent's decisions here, but, you know, whatever. I'm gonna do this, because, Golgari Rothug, Goblin Guide here isn't gonna do anything. Just gonna run smack first in that Mishra's Factory. Opponent's got a clock. It's not the best of clocks, but it's a clock. So they're gonna get the rack. So they pitch a Liliana. You need to draw lands and then some spells. And this is how they win, typically. Just random, nonsensical beatdowns, and then we can't cast spells. So if I were there, I would have almost, I guess, the problem is they're on such a quick clock right now that we're in a lot of trouble. Are we dead next turn? Yeah, we're dead next turn. And late at night is some weird stuff coming out of the woodwork. Scary that our opponent is choosing not to fire up. Okay. Like, are they not going to fire up Mishra's Factory? Nope, they are. Okay. I mean, if they happen to tap Silent Clearing for something, we could potentially Artifact Creature. I kind of like Funeral Charming us, but, you know, whatever. And we're dead. It happens. Not the best of matchups for Burn. Historically, I've considered this one of Burn's more tricky matchups. I have beat it before, but it usually takes an ungodly amount of luck, and the luck gods were not with us in this particular match.